Lesson 13, Chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variation. In today's video, I'm going to discuss about the topic genetic disorders. Now, what is genetic disorder? When abnormality takes place in an individual's body due to mutation in the structure of chromosome or the number of chromosome or in the structure of the gene, which brings about different phenotypic or genotypic expressions, and that leads to abnormality in the resultant individual. So such type of disorders are called as genetic disorders. Now these genetic disorders, it is of three types. One, it is called as Mendelian disorder, which takes place because of the mutation that takes place in the structure of the gene. Then comes chromosomal disorder, and this chromosomal disorder, it is divided again into two. One is autosomal disorder and the other one is sex chromosomal disorder. So in today's video, here some genetic diseases, it will be discussed on reference with these three types of mutation that may occur in an individual and that may result into the phenotypic and the genotypic changes. Now let us first discuss about the Mendelian disorders. The Mendelian disorder, it is also called as metabolic error. As said earlier, that the Mendelian disorders, they are caused due to alterations or mutation of single genes. So in the DNA, we know that there are genes which expresses a particular character. Now when these genes, it gets mutated because of some factors such as the mutagens, which can be a physical or chemical factor, or it can be due to the disjunction during the meiosis cell division process. So such alterations or mutations, especially in the structure of a gene, that may bring Mendelian disorders, which leads to metabolic errors in the metabolism in the individual's body. And especially here, I'm going to discuss about the human genetic disorders. So definitely in the metabolism of the human body, such errors may have its effect, and in that we find the metabolic errors, which are also called as Mendelian disorders. And these Mendelian disorders, if it takes place in one of the generation, then it is transmitted from generation to generation by the law of Mendelian inheritance pattern. Therefore, this is called as Mendelian disorder. Now, let's discuss that what are such Mendelian disorders that we can see in case of human beings that causes genetic diseases. These diseases, they are not caused by any kind of pathogen, but these are completely genetic in its behavior. That is why these are called as genetic diseases. So let's start with phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria, this is a Mendelian disorder which is caused because of the alteration of a single gene. Here the person possessing the recessive gene, that is small p, which is caused because of the alteration in the gene, fails to synthesize tyrosine. Tyrosine, this is an amino acid, and this leads to accumulation of excess phenylalanine in the blood, and this causes physical and mental retardation. Now let's consider this chart here. Phenylalanine, which comes to our body through dietary protein, or this is a component of our tissue protein, that is converted to tyrosine. And for conversion of this phenylalanine to tyrosine, that requires an enzyme which is called as phenylalanine hydroxylase. Now, in that person, because of the mutation in the actual gene, or which is the dominant gene, because of mutation, now the gene, it cannot synthesize phenylalanine hydroxylase, which is an enzyme. And because of the absence of this enzyme, phenylalanine, it cannot be converted into tyrosine, which is responsible for many metabolic pathways such as oxidation, protein synthesis, catecholamines, then thyroxine, melanin. So such other metabolic activities or metabolic processes couldn't be completed. And this absence of the enzyme, it leads to the accumulation. Because of this absence in the enzyme, this leads to accumulation of phenylalanine in the cells, and these cells, they release the phenylalanine into the blood, and the blood, as it is circulated throughout our body, this phenylalanine, it gets deposited in different parts of our body, such as it can be deposited there in the brain or kidney, heart, lungs, liver, etc. And because of this deposition, as it increases, the concentration of phenylalanine, as it increases, because that person throughout its lifetime, he cannot synthesize the enzyme which is called as phenylalanine hydroxylase. So from his birth till to a certain time, when the concentration of the phenylalanine that gets very high and that reaches the other parts of the body, that leads to physical and mental retardation because of the accumulation of this phenylalanine. So this is a very slow process, and the result that is normally seen from the very stage of the birth, but it gets severe during the later stages of life, and that may also leads to death of the particular individual. The next metabolic disorder or Mendelian disorder is alkaptonuria. So it is an autosomal recessive metabolic disorder. That means the mutation of the gene, it will take place in the autosome or in the body chromosome. And this alkaptonuria, it is caused due to deficiency of enzyme oxidase required for breakdown of tyrosine. So in the previous case, as you have seen, that the phenylalanine that is required to convert to tyrosine, but here the tyrosine, it needs to be broken down, and that is broken down with the help of the enzyme oxidase. And when it cannot be done, then this causes alkaptonuria. So because of this, the toxic byproduct, because of the absence of the enzyme oxidase, the toxic byproduct is formed, which is called as homogenesic acid, which accumulates in the tissue. And because of this accumulation of the homogenesic acid, the major defects that occurs are heart problem, arthritis, kidney and prostate stones can be seen in that particular person. And also a very common symptom for alkaptonuria is that the urine, it becomes black when the urine, it comes in contact with air. So these are the very common symptoms here. Let's try to understand alkaptonuria with the help of this chart. So as you know, the different metabolic reactions or chemical reactions that takes place in our body, which is controlled by the DNA. So in the earlier case, what we have seen that the phenylalanine that gets converted to tyrosine with the help of the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. And when this phenylalanine hydroxylase, which is produced from a different gene, it cannot be synthesized, then that causes phenylketonuria. Now here in case of alkaptonuria, phenylalanine that gets converted to tyrosine with the help of the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. Then tyrosine that gets converted to 4-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid with the help of the enzyme tyrosine aminotransferase. Then this 4-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid that gets converted to homogentisic acid. Now this homogentisic acid, it needs to be converted to mallyl acetoacetic acid for its normal metabolic pathway, and that is taking place with the help of the enzyme homogentisate 1,2-dioxygenase, which we commonly call it as the oxygenase enzyme. Now because of the deficiency or non-production of this enzyme, homogentisic acid couldn't be converted into mallyl acetoacetic acid, and this homogentisic acids, it starts accumulating in the tissues, and slowly this homogentisic acid that gets again transferred to different other organs in the body, and because of that accumulation, heart problems, arthritis, kidney problem, and prostate stones can be observed in that person. And a very common occurrence is the dark colored urine, as you can see in the picture. So normally the color of the urine for an adult human being, that is yellowish or light yellowish in color, but that person, he or she, they urinate dark color, because the normal urine, when the urine that possesses the homogentisic acid, when it comes in contact with the air, so that it becomes darker in color, as you can see in the picture. So this is how the Mendelian disorders takes place due to any kind of metabolic error, and such other Mendelian disorders are, say for example, albinism, then sickle cell anemia. All these are metabolic disorders that are caused because of mutation in a single gene itself. Chromosomal disorders takes place in two ways. One is autosomal chromosome disorder and the other one is sex chromosomal disorder. So various genetic diseases are known to occur because of the abnormality in these two types of chromosome, where change in the number of chromosome takes place. As we have already discussed about the change in the number of chromosome, it can lead to what type of outcome? It gives us either polyploidy or aneuploidy. Polyploidy, it was when the number of the diploid set of chromosome it increased by either once, twice, or 3 times, 4 times, and in that we find 5n, 4n, 5n, 6n number of chromosomal sets. Or it may happen due to aneuploidy, where an addition or loss of chromosome may take place. Now, the genetic diseases that will be discussed, or that is there in the syllabus, is due to the condition which is called as aneuploidy, where we find such chromosomal abnormalities, where a chromosome, it can either be added or it can be deleted from the cell or from the total set. So aneuploidy, it has several forms, and this aneuploidy, it may happen in case of autosome as well as in case of sex chromosome. So when it takes place in case of autosome, then we call this autosomal chromosome disorder. And in that, now I'm going to discuss about the Down syndrome, which is a autosomal abnormality caused by aneuploidy. So this Down syndrome, it is an autosomal aneuploidy caused by the presence of an extra chromosome in the 21st pair. As you know, that a diploid set of chromosome that possesses the number of chromosomes donated by both the paternal and the maternal cells. Now, in case of Down syndrome, there in the 21st pair of the chromosome, one more chromosome will be present in the resultant individual. That means in the 21st pair, which must consist of 2 chromosomes, now it bears 3 chromosomes. And this happens because that both the chromosomes in the 21st pair in that resultant individual, that is passed from a single egg, and this happens due to the non-disjunction during oogenesis, where the 21st pair it do not separate. Thus the egg possesses 24 chromosomes. Usually, as we know, that the female gamete it possesses 23 chromosomes, but in case of this type, the egg possesses 24 chromosomes instead of 23. And when the male and the female gamete, that is one possessing 23 chromosomes and the female gamete possessing 24 chromosomes in the gamete, when these two gametes they fuse with each other, the resultant offspring it bears 47 chromosomes. How it becomes 47? Because in the egg or the female gamete in the 21st pair, both the chromosomes have come because of the non-disjunction or non-separation during the process of oogenesis. And therefore, in the resultant offspring or the individual in that 21st position, now there are 3 chromosomes. Usually we have 46 after the fusion of the male and the female gamete. Now after the fusion of both the male and the female gamete, where the male gamete possesses 23 chromosome and the female gamete possesses 24 chromosome. So here altogether there are 47 chromosomes. And this condition, as an addition of chromosome had taken place, this is called as trisomy 21. 21 why? Because that is the 21st pair, and here the condition trisomy have occurred. Trisomy, it is when in the diploid set when one more chromosome it gets added, and here that one more chromosome it got added in the 21st pair. Now those persons who have Down syndrome, they are characterized to have round face, broad forehead, permanently open mouth, protruding tongue, short neck, flat hands, etc. So as you can see in the picture, that this is the normal phenotype for a person with Down syndrome. Though they can live a normal life, but this is the genetic disorder that have occurred due to the change in the number of chromosomes. So similar such chromosomal abnormality or the chromosomal disorders, it can take place in different ways, such as monosomy 21, it is present, 18 trisomy that is present, 13 trisomy that is present. So these are all because of addition or deletion of a chromosome during the formation of the zygote. And this happens because of the meiosis cell division, where the chromosomes, they cannot separate properly, and because of that, either their condition may come as monosomy, or it can come as trisomy, or it can come as tetrasomy. Now let's come to the sex chromosomal abnormality. Now the next is the sex chromosomal disorder. So this also happens due to aneuploidy or any of the forms of aneuploidy. Here the Turner syndrome. So this is one sex chromosomal disorder that is found in case of human being. So it is caused due to the monosomy. That means from the diploid set a chromosome will be missed, or it will be lost, and that chromosome, it will be from the two sex chromosome. So it is formed by the union of an allosome-free egg. As we know that the normal egg of female gamete, it possesses 22 plus X chromosome. As the female, they all forms the gametes 22 plus X. So here the female gamete, it will not have any kind of sex chromosome. So 22, that is the autosome, and there won't be any kind of sex chromosome in the female gamete. So it is called as allosome free egg. When it fuses with a normal sperm, that is 22 plus X, so it results into 44 plus XO. 44, that is the autosome, and X, that has come from the male gamete, which is the normal sperm, and the 0 or O, that is the allosome free egg, that has come from the allosome free egg, and it resulted into 45 chromosomes in the resultant offspring instead of 46. So this Turner syndrome, it can be seen normally in case of female individuals. So this is a monosomic condition which results into Turner syndrome for the female individuals, where the symptoms are that the females are generally sterile, who have rudimentary ovaries, that means they cannot give birth to the next generation, undeveloped breast, small uterus, webbed neck, and hearing impairment, etc. So this happens in the sex chromosomes of the individual, and this also takes place due to the non-disjunction of the sex chromosome, where both the X chromosome, it goes to one gamete, and the other gamete, it does not bear any kind of sex chromosome. So the genotype for the Turner syndrome, it will be 44 plus XO, that have in total 45 chromosomes. Then comes the Klinefelter's syndrome. One more type of the sex chromosomal abnormality disorder, it is that of the Klinefelter syndrome. So Klinefelter syndrome, it is due to trisomy of the sex chromosome. That is, that in the sex chromosomal pair, a chromosome, it will be present in extra because of the non-disjunction of the chromosomes during the process of cell division, that is meiosis cell division. So it is formed by the union of a abnormal egg 22 plus XX, where the non-disjunction in the meiosis cell division had taken place, and because of that, that XX chromosome, which would have separated in a normal cell division process, here it didn't separate it during meiosis, and therefore the egg now it possesses 22 plus XX, which we regard it as the abnormal egg, and a normal sperm, that is 22 plus Y. Or it can be because of normal egg 22 plus X and an abnormal sperm 22 plus XY, and the resultant offspring has 47 chromosomes. 44, that is the normal autosomal pair, plus XX was XXY. So here this is the abnormal sex chromosomal pair in the resultant offspring, where it possesses 47 chromosomes. Now the person with such abnormality in the chromosomal number, here it occurs in case of males, that means the Klinefelter syndrome, it occurs in case of males with undeveloped testes, mental retardation, feminine voice, low breast, longer arms, etc. And normally such kind of abnormality it is seen right from the childhood, and in some cases that it also dies during the very early period. So these are some genetic disorders that we have discussed, either because of gene mutation or because of the aneuploidy, which is a change in the number of the chromosomes. So earlier we discussed about the sex-linked inheritance disorder, where color blindness and hemophilia, it was a part in which it was also sex-linked because it was related with the sex chromosome, where a mutation had taken in the gene, and because of that mutation that the nature of the gene it changed, and that is now dependent upon the dominant and the recessive chromosomes, or dominant or the recessive genes that is present in the chromosomes. So in that we discussed about the color blindness and the hemophilia. So the today's topic, it is all about the genetic disorders, and these genetic disorders, it may happen because of various reasons. And in broad context, these disorders, it happen because of change in the structure of chromosome, such as for example the Cry-Ducat syndrome that was discussed earlier, while discussing about the mutation type. And in today's disorder, it was mainly because of the gene mutation or change in the number of chromosomes. So whatever we have discussed today, that is the phenylketonuria, alkaptonuria, sickle cell anemia, or albinism, so this all happens because of gene mutation. Or the sex-linked inheritance disorder, that is color blindness or hemophilia, so that took place in the gene structure, which leads to abnormality in the whole chromosome. And the other significant one that we discussed today, that is about the Down syndrome, which is a autosomal chromosome disorder, or the Turner syndrome or the Klinefelter syndrome, which is a sex chromosomal disorder. So here it has taken place because there was a change in the number of chromosomes. So normally there should be 46 chromosomes, but if from the 46, if one is lost, any of the chromosome that gets lost, or if one chromosome it gets added, so that also brings disorder in the resultant offspring. So in that way, there are various kinds of genetic disorders in every part of the world, such as progeria. Similarly, many such kind of disorders that is present there. Some it could be seen, some it could not be seen. Say for example, in case of phenylketonuria, so there in the initial stages this cannot be detected. So with this I end the today's video and the whole chapter, which is called the Principles of Inheritance. Thank you.